Okay, welcome to the regular council meeting for Monday, February 9th, 2026. I would like to start by acknowledging that we are gathering and governing on the unceded traditional territory of what is now known as the Comox Nation, and we are very grateful for their grace and collaboration as we do this good work on their lands. We have a few amendments to the agenda, so with these amendments, an extended period of time for the delegation from Comox Valley Tourism on the MRDT, the addition of 4.1.2 MRDT letter with the hyperlinks included, and 7.9, a new resolution to the AVICC Convention on Active Transportation, and then a closed meeting under Section 990.1 of the Community Charter to consider litigation or potential litigation, the receipt of the advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. With all those additions, can I have someone move that agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? We have to vote for that. And there are minutes from Committee of the Whole, January 26th, and regular council, January 26th.
Move the minutes.
Second.
Thank you. And all in favor of that? Thank you. And receipt of committee meeting minutes, Heritage Committee, December 4th and January 15th.
Move receipt.
Thank you.
Second.
Seconder? Thank you. All in favor? That's also carried. And first up, delegation, Tanya and Callum are going to talk to us about the MRDT. Come on up. Thank you.
Is this already on?
Yeah, the little red light.
Red
Yeah,
light's
it's
on.
a tiny red light, not a big one like bend it up if it's not tall enough.
Perfect. All right, yes, hi, I'm Tanya. I'm the Tourism Development Specialist with Experience Comox Valley. I have been doing this now for 5 years. And I'm happy to be here today with Callum from Forever Strategies. I also want to acknowledge that we are grateful to be here today on the traditional and unceded territory of Comox First Nation. And Callum is going to talk to you about our 10-year tourism strategy plan and 5-year MRDT.
Perfect. Thanks, Tanya, and thanks for the opportunity to be here this evening. So I think as you're all hopefully aware, we are working on the municipal and regional district tax renewal for the regional district. And this really builds on the 10-year tourism planning project that we recently completed. It was approved by the board of the regional district on December 9th. And the intention of the strategy is that it provides a kind of long-term, inspiring, aspirational vision for how tourism can support businesses, people, and the environment of the Comox Valley. And this really provides a lot of direction as we enter into this MRDT planning process. And the MRDT planning process is particularly important. Tanya will share some of the strategies and actions that are comprised within the draft 5-year plan, but it's really our first 5-year window of actioning the 10-year plan that was just approved. The Experience Comox Valley budget currently enables the organization to take on destination marketing work as well as visitor services. However, our 10-year plan is much broader than that. It looks at how ultimately tourism can better contribute to the well-being and wealth of communities and help to protect special places. And that requires more than just marketing and visitor services, obviously. So the intent for this project on the MRDT side is to secure additional revenue that will help power us as we implement that 10-year plan. As a quick refresher, the Municipal and Regional District Tax is a BC-only program. It only exists within the province. It was established in the 1980s, really as a way to try to help increase the competitiveness of the tourism sector. Although MRDT is the program we have here in BC, there's different versions across Canada and the world that many of you will be familiar with, and the traveling public is very accustomed to hotel and lodging taxes, entry-exit fees, whatever it might be. You have the option for MRDT to be collected at either a rate of 2% or 3%. Currently within the Comox Valley, it's collected at 2% only within the boundaries of the city of Courtenay. And the intention for this process is to move to 3% and to also expand that boundary to include the rest of the regional district, with the exception of Mount Washington, which has their own MRDT in place, and Hornby and Denman also won't be a part of this. Interestingly, there's 65 plus communities collecting MRDT, and just about all of them have gone to 3% or are in the process of going to 3%. Doesn't impact visitor spending or decision making, and it's a lot of extra revenue that the organizations really need right now. MRDT is collected from fixed roof accommodation properties, so it's not levied at campgrounds, RV parks, things like that. But it is collected from short-term rental properties as well. And the MRDT needs to be renewed every 5 years. So the city of Courtenay's MRDT is coming up for renewal. So it was a natural time to try to expand the boundary area and also increase the collection rate from 2 to 3%. The MRDT process is a little bit complicated, but I try to simplify it here. From a foundational level, you have to have a good governance model in place with an organization to receive and manage the funds. So in our case, that is the regional district, and the Tourism Advisory Committee provides a governance model. The Tourism Advisory Committee includes representation from across the regional district, including,
There's 2 from Cumberland.
2 from Cumberland. Although that makeup of it will shift as we have some vacancies coming up. The next part, once you've got a governance model in place, is you have to demonstrate a really high degree of stakeholder engagement through the process. For us, we're fortunate that we just came off of a huge amount of engagement for the 10-year plan, so we were able to kind of dovetail the 2 processes together just to try to alleviate some kind of stakeholder partner fatigue for so many engagement sessions. You then create a 5-year strategic business plan and a 1-year tactical plan that will kind of set out what you're going to do for the duration of that MRDT term. You then have to take that to the fixed roof accommodation properties that have 4 rooms or more, and we have to have 51% or more properties within that boundary area of the regional district agree. And if that happens, it goes to the next level, which is local government. So we will be seeking a resolution in support of the tax and the 5-year plan from each incorporated community. That will eventually go to the regional district board, who will then have a resolution requesting the province levies the MRDT tax on their behalf. Then it goes to the Destination British Columbia and the Ministry of Finance for final review, where it's eventually approved by cabinet. And we're typically looking at about 3 to 6 months to develop the 5-year plan, tactical plan, get the signatures required, local government engagement, and then there's normally another 4 to 6 months before we get the official approval from Destination BC and the Ministry of Finance and cabinet. Our goal here is to complete the renewal so there's no gap in collection of MRDT. So the day that Courtenay's repeal date happens, the following day the new term will start. We've had some timeline challenges that we've been navigating. It's possible there could be a very short gap in collection of MRDT, but that's really dependent on when cabinet will meet. And we're not exactly sure, but this is a real priority for Destination BC and the Ministry of Finance, especially because we're working regionally. So hopefully there won't be a gap. If there is, it'll be a very short period of time, and the increased revenue of broadening the boundary areas and going from 2 to 3% would make that gap in collection it wouldn't be a big deal when we look at the budget on an annual basis. Over to you, Tanya. Okay, yeah, I can take this one if you want. So this is a little bit similar to what I was saying before around broadening Experience Comox Valley's purpose to destination management rather than just visitor services and marketing. And Mount Washington has MRDT on their own already. We have been talking to them actively about partnership opportunities. I've also talked to our neighbors in Campbell River, so we're exploring an opportunity for Experience Comox Valley plus Campbell River and Mount Washington to all work together on some promotion, which I think would make really good sense. And the other side of it, I think, is the final piece here. When we think about this 10-year plan, the aligning it with the MRDT is great because we'll have a 5-year plan at the end of this process, and then we'll have to renew the MRDT again in 5 years. So we'll be able to see out the duration of this 10-year strategy and have the funding tied into it through the MRDT. So it's really nice that this isn't a big, bold plan that has no plan to fund it. The MRDT is our vehicle to fund it and to bring it to life. And then I guess this is my last slide, Tanya? Yeah. Okay, perfect. So I wanted to quickly talk about the benefits of working together regionally. And I think that every community within the Comox Valley is unique and special and brings some different elements that visitors love and enjoy. And while we certainly want to be able to showcase the unique elements of each community and enable communities to differentiate themselves, it makes complete sense to work together. You could imagine a different world where in the Comox Valley, every community has their own tourism website with their own MRDT, and they're all doing tons of reporting, and you've got 3 or 4 communities all doing a MRDT renewal right now that costs about $20,000. And then you're bidding against each other for keywords to try to bring the same people to basically the same place. It does not make any sense. And we know that by working together regionally, we can have a lower tax rate that funds the tourism service, and there's savings there. We know that we can have an increase in funding for Experience Comox Valley to broaden its mandate beyond visitor services and marketing. We know that there can be opportunities for more collaboration, especially with some of the more rural communities and communities that haven't been deeply involved in the tourism service to date. We're able to leverage Destination British Columbia funds to support tourism marketing at every dollar we put in, they give another dollar functionally. And we also know that we're able to create a lot of efficiencies in that reporting. So we're just doing this one application instead of 3 or 4, one report once a year. Other communities like the Regional District of Mount Waddington, they all have their own and then contribute to a joint pot to work together. But that results in our team member up there having to do 3 or 4 different reports every time. A lot of kind of wasted 5. And then when I do the MRDT renewal, it's 5 all at the same time. So not super efficient. So we've got a model. Right now it's just the City of Courtenay collecting, and you'll see some of the numbers on the next slide. And the model's working really well. And if we expand the number of communities that are collecting MRDT and increase the rate from 2 to 3%, we have an opportunity to just really, I think, take this to the next level. And a quick snapshot here of estimated revenues. This is based on a 3% MRDT collection rate. So you can see the MRDT, so that's what's collected from the kind of traditional fixed roof accommodation properties. And for the purposes of, Mount Washington will be continuing to have their own MRDT, so kind of take that 240 or so out.
No, wait. Mount Washington out, yeah.
Oh, sorry, that excludes Mount Washington. Thanks, Tanya. So that would be all of the other electoral areas, but does not include Hornby and Denman. And then on the OAP side, that's what's collected from short-term accommodation properties directly by the platform. So if you're operating an Airbnb, you don't have to worry about calculating 2 or 3% and sending it to the government. It's all taken care of in the back end. And when it comes to the OAP and affordable housing and possible uses, we've got another slide coming up that'll provide a little bit more context around kind of what the game plan is with that. But you can see it would be a pretty substantial budget of about $1 million in MRDT funding supporting the tourism service, and that's certainly ample funding for us to be able to power that 10-year plan I spoke about earlier.
All right, so as Callum mentioned, we do have a draft 5-year MRDT business strategy plan, which also includes a 1-year tactical plan. So the first year for that tactical plan would be 2027, and then the 5 years covers up to 2031. So these are just a couple of high-level targets that we've included within the 5-year plan. This is not all of them, but just some high-level ones, including increasing the MRDT general revenue, as well as the visitor yield, so the amount that visitors spend per trip while they're here. We want them to stay for longer, to spend more, and to support local while they're in our communities. And amplify the awareness of the direct flight routes, especially in the shoulder season months, so that we can truly become a year-round destination. We want to establish a baseline resident sentiment score regarding tourism, develop and publish educational content pieces that are co-developed with partners, particularly like environmental groups and non-government organizations that have just such a wealth of knowledge that we want to be able to share with our visitors as well as residents. We want to increase the number of operators that are adopting sustainability platforms and certifications in our communities and achieve a net promoter score of 65 or higher. So this is that visitor satisfaction rate, so that we know that when they're coming into our communities, they're living like a local, they're having a great time, and they're helping us promote our communities by word of mouth. We want to recruit and train industry host ambassadors. This would be a new program for 2027 in the 5-year plan. So I'm really looking forward to that as a way to increase the value of visitor servicing in our community. I'm sure many of you have used AI and ChatGPT to help you plan things. So we want to make sure that we're getting all the information out there that's discoverable by AI, but also that the front of house workers are aware of the information so that they can support real-time advice to visitors that might be asking. And we want to increase overall engagement with our Experience Comox Valley marketing materials across all of our platforms and all of our ad buys. So a couple of strategies that we'll be using to achieve these targets and goals include working with our partnerships and our governance model, so strengthening our collaborative partnerships, including advancing reconciliation efforts with Indigenous partners and ensuring that the tourism economy reflects community values and is guided by local priorities. We want to achieve economic growth and resilience and in a balanced way to cultivate a strong, resilient, year-round tourism economy that attracts sustainable investment and creates quality local jobs and positions the sector as a vital economic and cultural contributor to the region. We want the community and quality of life to be enhanced here in all of our communities. We want to look at environmental and cultural stewardship, and making sure our messaging aligns with those values and the visitors that come here. We want to lessen their negative impacts to our communities and hopefully, in fact, achieve a regenerative impact where they're leaving the community better than how they found it. Looking at sustainable infrastructure and connectivity, so connecting our communities within the region itself, but then also to the broader Vancouver Island as a whole. As well as product and experience development. So again, kind of going along with that year-round visitor experiences, we need to make sure that there's always things to do, including in the shoulder season or what some might consider to be the off-season. So we want to make sure that we're developing and constantly being innovative in how we're attracting the right people into our communities. And Callum's going to talk about OAP.
Perfect. So as I mentioned earlier, OAP, that refers to the funds collected from the short-term rental properties within the MRDT boundary area. And there's a couple of different approaches that we can take with this. Ultimately, a final decision isn't needed as a part of this submission. When it comes to the OAP, communities have the option throughout the MRDT 5-year term to kind of change their minds on what they want to do with it. There's flexibility there, but this is the model based on conversations with CAOs that we think is probably the best option, and it gives the greatest amount of flexibility. So we would be increasing from 2 to 3% on the short-term rental properties, and just like with general MRDT expanding beyond just the city of Courtenay to the rest of the regional district, essentially what would happen is that we would report, the regional district would report the revenue that is being provided to them from those online accommodation platform properties. We would then use a platform that we already have called AirDNA, and that enables us to basically calculate how much revenue was made during a given time period with a lot of precision within a specific community. So then that lets us basically figure out with a high degree of certainty how much money came from Cumberland, from other parts of the regional district, and then the funds will be transferred to that community. So each community could decide to use it to offset development costs. They could start a rent bank, whatever you really want. You could also direct it towards a housing authority. There's a lot of flexibility in terms of what you would do with those funds. And this model, I think, really is the one that requires the smallest amount of decision making today and gives the most flexibility for what can happen with the funds. I think the most important thing to note, we're not talking huge amounts of money. So what we typically see from communities is that they, where there isn't a housing authority in place or a project identified, they'll just keep the money in a kind of specialized account, and they'll accrue funds there until there's enough to do something with it. Certain communities will use those funds to start an affordable housing project and then use future revenues to service debt. Lots of different options, and this ultimately, as a recommendation, would maintain those options for you as council. And then lastly, just some next steps. So we are sharing out the 5-year plan that Tanya shared a couple highlights from across the tourism sector with local governments and other partners around the region. We are starting our engagement with the accommodation providers, especially those that have 4 or more rooms, and will be voting in favor of MRDT, hopefully. We'll then be returning to councils in March to report on the number of signatures collected. It's our hope at that time we'll have met the threshold required for the MRDT submission. We'll have the final 5-year, 1-year plan, etc. And then we'll be seeking the resolution in support of the regional district's MRDT application. And as soon as we have all of that, we'll package it together and send it to Destination BC and the Ministry of Finance for that kind of final approval process. Perfect. That covers it for this evening, but happy to answer questions if there are.
Great. Thanks so much, you guys. Councillor Barecki, go ahead.
Thank you. And kudos to expanding your mandate and your scope to include destination management, not just the traditional visitors center. Here's some brochures, and that it really, that's a real positive. I'm curious, if someone's not on an OAP, the online accommodation platform, and they're just some either mom and pop bed and breakfast that doesn't use Airbnb or anything like that, or Vrbo or whatever, or they're a boutique hotel that, you know, we got our own website, we deal with. How onerous is it going to be for them to collect this tax, or are they required to, or I imagine to being all on the same playing field, they would have to. How would you describe that process?
Yeah, so it's honestly a little bit of a tricky gray area. If there's a property owner who is using any sort of a revenue management platform, then there would be the option for adding a MRDT fee to that. Pretty much all of those systems would have it. But I've definitely worked in areas where there might be, like, you know, folks that have, you know, a cabin they rent out, and it's kind of been the same families get the same weeks every summer, and it's just email and check exchanges. Those properties typically will fall through the cracks. What does keep me up at night a little bit is the potential for, you know, we fast forward 2 years from now, and then the province comes knocking, looking for 2 years worth of MRDT revenue that that wasn't collected. I've never heard of that happening before. But that's, I think, for us, we're just really trying to get the word out if MRDT is coming in place around how you can collect it. The Ministry of Finance does have support for smaller operators when it comes to collecting and remitting the MRDT. But honestly, that is a tricky aspect of it, especially for those small properties that aren't using a major platform.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Put that. There we go. Thank you very much. I also very much applaud your mandate shift towards quality tourism rather than more tourism. I think that's something that we all look for. So, because of that, I would be in support of an MRDT to help with that development. I was curious about both industry support and regional participation. So, as I understand, you're saying that the MRDT application is for the entire region as one piece, and you need 51%. Is it 51% of the rooms or 51% of the properties?
It's actually both. So when we we basically have a big list of all the properties and how many rooms they have. Once we've got 51, so you need to have a minimum of 51% of the properties, and when you add up the number of rooms those properties that voted yes have, you need to have 51% or more of the threshold, or of the total rooms to meet that threshold. We're typically gunning for like somewhere in the 70% overall, and then you just kind of avoid an extra layer of like verification from the ministry. They're not, you know, if you're at 51%, they do a lot of double checking with everyone, which is definitely fair enough. So we're always gunning for somewhere in the 70s.
Okay.
And it would be one vote for the entire area. So it wouldn't be 51% of Cumberland properties, 51% of Courtenay.
That's what I wanted to clarify. I expected that. And then municipalities and regional districts. So if one of the local governments decides not to support, what happens then? Does the boundary kind of get wrapped around without them? Okay, and then what's the consequence? What's the consequence for them on a change in service? You know, is there a free rider issue here for that?
Yeah, so I think there absolutely would be a free rider issue. There would also be the issue of really critical loss of service to tourism stakeholders from that community, which could be pretty devastating. Certainly hope that that doesn't happen here, but I think the reality is that the model that we have is based on communities contributing to a tourism service through tax revenue, and we're expanding this now so that it'll also be the MRDT component layered in there. And I think that it's probably safe to assume that if a community decided not to participate in the tourism service and MRDT, that stakeholders from their community would not be able to access Experience Comox Valley's services, which would be really, really disappointing for us and them, because it becomes really challenging from a stakeholder management perspective, and certainly feel for operators who would not be getting comparable service levels.
Okay. So if one community says, actually, we're not in, then the boundary gets drawn and differently, and the accommodation properties within that municipality would also not be would not be charging their residents.
That's
the 3%.
correct.
Okay.
Unless they decided to pursue their own MRDT,
Oh, yeah.
and they'd be starting, back from scratch with that kind of 6-month minimum application window timeline and 20-ish thousand in cost.
Yeah. All right. That's my questions. Thank you.
And just to clarify, a withdrawal from the service would also mean that not just accommodations properties would not get access to Experience Comox Valley, but none of the tourism businesses
Exactly.
would have access to that. So all the fishing charters and all the other things that happen that are not accommodations based would also not get the service.
So can I then re-clarify? Because your funding comes from a service model funding for part of it, but is all of the communities, and
Yeah.
then this MRD piece would be an additional. So that base funding that's there, if someone decides not to participate in MRDT, then it's the extra they get. They don't lose everything.
So it's a little bit tricky, and it depends on the particular community at hand. When it comes to the tourism service that is funding Experience Comox Valley, my understanding of it is that there's communities that are kind of committed longer-term partners in that service, and that the town of Comox has opted in for a shorter period of time that I believe would end at the end of this calendar year.
Yeah.
So it's likely that any decision, we won't be collecting the increased MRDT rate until next year anyway. So what would likely happen is that the service would continue for 2026 status quo, and then once that tourism service funding from a community is no longer being contributed and there's no MRDT, then it would basically, the services would no longer be provided to that area.
Thank you.
And that also includes like grant funding, supporting festivals and events, business development work around hotel property attraction. We talked to quite a lot of investors. All of that work would be gone. And I know from work that I've done on the hotel attraction side that investors view MRDT within a community and working together with neighbors as a really essential kind of piece of criteria from their investment lens, because in this case it would be opting out of $1 million of marketing and other services to support your potential investment in a property. So I think the actual impact would be a lot greater than just not being able to participate in the more typical, more visible programs. It would be deeper than that.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I just appreciate the presentation. I've just not heard a rent bank. That sounds like a fun thing. Not heard that term before, so that would be cool to get something like that going on. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Just another question here. So, like in BC, you may or may not have this number off the top of your head. What are the proportion of communities, or like ours, or larger, involved in something like this compared to those which have opted out? I mean, or is there other competing types of organizations that sort of you're up against?
No,
From a tourism perspective.
Yeah, I think what we generally see, like certainly around the island in BC, is that most communities are choosing to have the MRDT in place, and sometimes an additional tourism service tax levy beyond the MRDT. Here on the island, just about every incorporated community is collecting MRDT. There's a couple small exceptions, Sayward. You know, I'm working right now with Hawaiian First Nations and communities in Barkley Sound for them to get MRDT. Communities in Esperanza and Nootka are working on it as well. It's by no means a perfect program, but it's the best one we have. And it's, you know, the way I look at it is that visitors have a cost that we don't really see when they come to our community. And MRDT is not going to be the silver bullet to fix all of that, but it definitely helps them to pay their fair share and pay their way when they're in our communities, helps us support, you know, businesses. So it's definitely a program that I think just about every community where it makes sense from a revenue perspective is involved in it. Where I see the regional side come in a little bit more is smaller communities, and Cumberland's probably a good example of that. If you were to go and do your own MRDT, the admin costs, all of that, it kind of nullifies doing it in the first place. So that's where a community like Sayward, for example, doesn't have the MRDT, but pretty much everyone has it.
Yeah. Thank you.
And in Cumberland, there's 3 properties that would be the 4 or more threshold.
Yeah. Okay.
They get to vote.
They get to vote, correct, yeah. So in total for the region, there's about 20 or 21 properties, and 3 of those are located in Cumberland, which is 20 rooms total out of the
If you're
800
counting.
and 800
Some
and
of us are
something rooms
counting.
for the region. 20 of them are in Cumberland.
Thank you.
Does that include the campground?
No.
Because the
Campgrounds
sleeping
aren't
barrels are
included.
not a fixed roof.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
campgrounds. Yeah,
No.
so it's the King George Cumberland Guest House and Riding Pool.
Yeah.
Just not
Councillor
sleeping.
Tyrion?
Thank you. Thank you for all of this. I just wanted to clarify. So there's 2 revenue streams. The accommodations 4 or greater, the 3 that you just mentioned there, and that revenue all flows to Experience Comox Valley,
Correct.
and then the Airbnb, Verbo, et cetera, all of that revenue is going to flow back to each community
Correct, for affordable housing.
for affordable housing or rent bank or however we want to set up and use that. And there's criteria on what we can use that for. It's not general revenue.
Yes.
Yep, so you have to do some annual reporting, which we're happy to assist with. Ultimately, there's a pretty broad range of eligible uses, from planning work to infrastructure capital costs, like rent relief programs. You can get really creative with it. If there is an affordable housing site that requires like a budget to manage, the funding can go towards that. It's much less restricted than the general MRDT funds, which it's pretty black and white what you can and can't do with it. With the affordable housing money, it's pretty broad and up to your discretion as council.
Okay, thank you. And the amount, I'm just trying to recall from the slide, it was about $45,000 for Cumberland? Yeah, there we go. Good. So that's just from the Airbnbs here in Cumberland. Okay.
Yeah, and that's an estimate, so of course we won't have a really good idea until a full year of collecting. Like the fun part of budgeting with MRDT is you're basing it on an estimate, and then you don't find out what you actually collected until the following year.
And is that estimate based on your Air D, what did you call it?
Yeah, Air DNA.
Yeah.
DNA.
Yes, okay.
Yep, so I think I have a pretty high degree of confidence in it. My general approach is once we have the first quarterly payment, we'll look at our revenue estimate spreadsheet and see what we projected for the first quarter of collection, and then kind of reforecast the remainder of the year based on the first quarter's actuals.
Awesome. I just have a couple of things. So the MRDT has been in play in the city of Courtenay for how long now?
Well,
At least 10 years.
At least 10 years, yeah, because it was CVEDS that was collecting it beforehand.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yeah, like this is year 5 of 5 with Experience Comox Valley, but previously, the previous 5 and maybe even 5 before that would have been CVEDS.
Yeah. And so, how often do we have to update the MRD? Like, is this process, we're doing this for how many years and then we have to renew that? And is the process for that renewal the same, or is it a bit easier?
Yeah, so the 5-year renewals, so that's just that would be when you guys are involved. Each year, we do have to submit an annual tactical plan, but that's just done at the level with us and our tourism advisory committee. So what we do is we do like business and industry partners survey to find out what their level of satisfaction is with how we've been promoting the area and if they have recommendations or ideas. And then I usually take those survey results from the engagement and I bring it to our tourism advisory committee where we brainstorm ideas for the following tactical year. And then typically I just present those as like here's FYI, here's the plan. But there wouldn't be any formal resolutions or anything like that until the following 5-year cycle.
Okay, and so every 5 years we have to have the vote again?
Yeah, that's
Correct.
correct. I'll see you in
Okay,
5
good to know.
years.
Yeah, yeah. So the vote right now is just let's action the first 5 years of our 10-year plan. Let's
Yeah,
show how good of a job we can do, and then hopefully we continue on for the last 5 years of the 10-year plan.
okay, no
And a
pressure,
new
guys.
10-year plan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. Any other questions, council? Alrighty, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us.
So much.
Do we need to move
There's a
receipt?
recommendation to receive that delegation.
I'll move that council receive the delegation from Experience Comox Valley regarding MRDT.
Second.
Thank you, and all in favor? That's carried unanimously. And next up is Heritage Alteration Permit 2687 Penrith. Hello, Jasmine.
Good evening. Okay. The purpose of this report is to request approval of a heritage alteration permit to separate commercial and residential unit entrances and deck areas on the subject property. To do so, the applicant has requested 3 heritage alterations: removal of a portion of the fence, and addition of a new wooden gate in its place, installation of a new section of the fence with a metal gate facing First Street, and installation of a divider on the deck. This application is being presented to the council for the second time after the Heritage Committee's referral. And please note that this is a retroactive application as alterations have already been made. Just to give a quick background, built in 1895, the building, a former church, is a 1-story wood-framed front gable structure as part of Cumberland's historic church row. It holds both historic and aesthetic value for its Gothic revival style. Presently, it's a cultural venue for performing arts, and it has recently been added as a heritage property under the Cumberland Community Heritage Register and has a statement of significance. On the side of the building facing First Street, there are 2 entrances, one for the commercial unit and the other one for the residential unit. A shared deck and steps and a ramp, a shared deck with steps and a ramp provided access to both entrances. Recently, the owner has installed a divider on the deck, removed a portion of the fence, and installed a new wooden gate in its place, and installed a new portion of the fence along with a black metal gate. All these changes required a heritage alteration permit. While the alterations are relatively minor, they impact the overall visual appearance and character of the building. The general design guidelines in the HCA state that commercial appearance of a building's street level should not be significantly altered from its original form. The changes introduce a clear visual and spatial separation between the commercial and residential parts of the building. The HCA guidelines required that where construction of new fences contemplated, owners are encouraged to erect a fence or a wall of historic appearance. Historic photographs from 1940s indicate that the property featured a picket fence. The Heritage Committee noted that while the alterations are minor, they look inconsistent. It also noted that the HCA guidelines do not assign a particular time period to the historic appearance requirement and believes that the style is consistent with Cumberland's history in general. The committee supported approval of the HAP if there is a modification to stain the woodwork in a consistent dark historic color. Now, following the Heritage Committee meeting, staff prepared an AI-generated rendering illustrating a potential dark stain for the woodwork. The rendering shows that staining the woodwork in a single consistent dark shade would be visually more cohesive. This approach would help the recent alterations appear more finished and reduce perception of visual clutter, and hence staining the woodwork in a dark color is proposed as a condition of the permit. The owner may choose to extend this treatment to the remaining fencing by staining a darker color to achieve a more unified appearance across the property. However, this is offered as a future consideration and is not proposed as a condition. The existing black metal gate would complement and visually neutralize the darker stained wood. The applicant has confirmed their agreement to implement the Heritage Committee's recommendation by staining the woodwork a darker shade of brown. There are no financial, operational, or climate change implications associated with this application. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for bringing this back to us again. And for working with the property owner retroactively as well. Council, questions? Nothing?
I'll move the council approve the heritage alteration permit HAP 2502 for the property described as Lot 12, Block 3, District Lot 21, Nelson District Plan 522, 2687 Penrith Avenue.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you so much. Next up is Cumberland Community Heritage Register Additions Project. Hello, Karen.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Council. Yeah, more heritage. So, yeah, this report introduces the Heritage Register Additions Project to Council, which was identified in the Heritage Committee 2026 work plan. And it's been a little while in coming, actually. As my report outlines, there was some talk about it earlier on, and an initial review by the Heritage Committee, the Heritage Inventory. So the goal of the project is to identify heritage resources that could be recommended for addition to the Community Heritage Register to Council. So the first step is to research. The first step has been completed, looking at the inventory and pulling out all the different heritage resources that would actually qualify for Heritage Register Additions project, because there's things on the inventory that people mentioned that include events, people, and lucky beer, and things like that. So, yeah, so we had to do a little bit of a sift. So that has happened. Having said that, it's still a preliminary list, and as part of the project, that will be further reviewed to narrow down perhaps the number of potential listings, so that would be receive a review and be described as a short heritage value statement, preliminary list of character defining elements, and a current photograph. So the village was lucky to get support from a Heritage Legacy Fund for the project, so we got some matching funds that will help us do the work. We do have a consultant who would work on the project. She's worked with the village on a number of things before, the statements of significance for other resources. So she would be involved. So the first step really is to start a review of the resources we have and work on that list. And the feedback that we're looking for from council is whether, as you wish, if you have any specific sites that you think should be added to that preliminary list for further review, whether to include or not, or if you have a specific site you're very passionate about and you know deserves to be on that list, you could also direct specifically that has to be on the list of heritage resources that come back to council for recommendation for addition to the register. So that's your choice would be by resolution. Yeah, I just wanted to briefly mention the benefits of being a heritage register. So it has made a difference working with property owners who have a building listed on the heritage register and who have a statement. The building has a statement of significance. People are quite curious about the buildings that they own or have acquired, and sometimes you get phone calls from folks who've just bought a Bevan house and they want to know what they can and can't do, and it instills some pride and awareness, and I think it hopefully helps with retaining the building. A heritage register listing in and of itself does not mean the building is protected. It's really a tool to raise awareness and maybe consider further protection tools in the future. So it's really just a first step. There are some benefits to the owner, aside from, getting to know the building a little bit better and how it fits into the history of the community. It's also they do have access to the building code, temporary, so some protection, some alternate ways to achieve building code requirements under the heritage supplement to the building code. So that's an advantage. What it does for council, if someone does apply for a demolition permit, council could, staff would have to bring forward a report to the upcoming council meeting, and then council could make a decision whether to hold the demolition and require an inspection, and then enter into discussions with the owner of ways that maybe the building could be preserved. You know, this can work particularly well in communities that might have funding for preservation and programs. We don't, but it's still a tool that could be important. Yeah, I think that's really the highlight of the highlights of the report. If you have questions.
Thank you. I'm just looking at the list because I was not aware that you wanted feedback on it, and am I not seeing the Cumberland Hotel on there?
Yeah, so we have,
Because they did have an SOS, didn't they?
you know, so the Cumberland Hotel did not have an SOS. It did not have an SOS.
So
So the reason it might not be on here isn't that maybe it's not valuable to add. So that's a good call. Is we started with the heritage inventory, and for some reason I think maybe that specific building wasn't on the list, or it's just as a Dunsmuir streetscape type.
And just note, there are a lot of houses around town and sites that do have a little plaque that don't necessarily sit on the SOS.
oh, that all are. You're
Oh
right.
yeah, that's a good point too. Yeah.
Yeah. So should we just add those to the list because they've already been recognized? Oh, there's two lists.
So there's the list of what's currently on the inventory. and
Oh,
then-
I see.
And then, that's right. And then there's
There it is. I'm sorry. You're right. I was looking at the existing list.
And then there's a list from the heritage inventory.
Yeah.
And then that's right, Courtney remind me of something important. When we brought forward the OCP, we were thinking of adding a schedule to the HCA, the Heritage Conservation Area of protected heritage property. And we went through and looked at buildings that had some heritage significance, were older than, the 1940s or something. There was a 1932 cutoff or something. And then we decided that because we hadn't done sufficient consultation with the property owners, we brought it back to council with a suggestion to take that off. We took the list out of the OCP, that schedule. So that's right. So I think this is just a starting list for resources from the inventory, but then we also want to add that list for in the initial consideration of what we, as part of the review of what we actually look at. That's right. So that's quite a long list. So that would include the Cumberland Hotel.
Okay. And so with this long list, was that created by the Heritage Committee? Committee?
Yeah, so the Heritage Committee had a meeting a while back, and they went to all the inventory listings, all 164. And like I said, some we excluded right away because they're natural resources that they don't qualify for Heritage Register listing. Some are actually events, some are people, right? And some are things that people value in the community.
Right.
So this has got narrowed down from the inventory.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think there isn't that many heritage properties that were on that schedule to the OCP that aren't also on this list, but there are some. Yeah, like the Cumberland Hotel, for example.
Okay. Okay. Council, questions, feedback on that list? It starts on page 63. Nope. 62. Nope. 61. Sorry. 61.
9 of 459.
Yeah. 57 of 232. Which is just part one of the agenda.
Yes, I guess it's to expand on the mayor's sort of clarification. One thing I noted when looking at this, the register is generally buildings. There's the odd sort of points and places. The prioritized inventory seems sort of predominated by sort of features or places, the mine park, the orchard remnants, alleyways. And what I'm not seeing so much is as you say, there were, I could probably think of 20 houses around town that have a brass plaque or have some significance that that I would like. Given you express the ownership pride and also the likelihood of protection that comes from this work, I think we're less likely to lose the village park because we don't understand its than we are to lose a building because an owner doesn't understand its full significance, and so some focus upon the buildings themselves.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering if the buildings generally with plaques are included in the historic neighborhood designations that did make it into did they make it into the OCP, or is that, yes? And then they would be captured that way, or we could capture them by neighborhood, like this is a historic neighborhood, I don't know.
Well, I see that Doctors Row, for example, and I
Yeah.
know, of course, there's a couple of properties on Doctors Row, but
That
maybe
have
not
them.
all of Doctors Row. Does that mean that we might see a statement of significance for Doctors Row?
Like we do for Camp
Um,
Road
Yes. Yeah.
and yeah.
Yeah, so totally, it could be neighborhoods, and we talked about that with the Heritage Committee too. There's sort of the small neighborhoods that you might put together as a listing, and then once they list it, and they just have a statement of value and some preliminary character defining elements, the goal is still over time then from that list to prioritize, look, we do need to do a complete statement of significance for them. Because it won't have a complete statement of significance, right? So, it just means it's all on the register, and then you have a better view of everything that's important, and then we can keep chipping away on the statements of significance, the complete ones. I think the intent is not to stop those, but to just get ahead a little bit and zoom out a bit, get a broader view of what we have, and then focus on specific sites.
Absolutely.
again.
And I think we did do an SOS for Camp Road as a neighborhood.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so
I
that's,
can understand.
yeah.
While we're talking statements of significance, Masonic Hall, I understand, is on the work plan. There are two, it appears. Masonic Hall is one of them, which I understand. Cultural landscape, is that a intended statement of significance? This is page 60.
It's 62, 422. Inventory number 58.
Masonic
In the
Hall A,
list?
so A was just
On
building.
page 60, purple heading,
Oh,
item 3.
the work plan.
Oh, yeah, so we
Work
were
plans
hoping
are
we
whole nother-
could have gotten more funding. So, so that's not funded
There you go,
currently,
sorry.
statements of significance for this year, additional ones.
So there's not currently any funding for those. I don't think so.
Takes quite a while to get the whole statement of significance together, so. Yeah.
And I should say the the management plan from 2016 has a list of criteria for how to select additions to the Heritage Register. So each time the committee looks at this, they also look at that. And the level of threat is a consideration for sure. So
Good,
if it's
yeah.
already in a park and already protected and you can only do so much, you would add it overall to the Heritage Register as a recognition, but then when you actually get to doing individual statements of significance, that might not be one at the top of the list. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just one house I'm thinking of that appears to be missing from the list. The Twisted Chimney House, the large house at the top of
Yeah. What's that
Fifth
house
Street?
called? It must have a name besides Twisted Chimney House. Nobody probably knows the address of said house either.
No,
No,
it's either on
because
Fifth
it's the
or
Twisted
it's
Chimney
on
House.
corner of Fifth and Windermere. Fifth
Yeah.
and Windermere.
Yeah, we should
Yeah,
have
but
that one.
we know where. Yeah, we'll find it.
Yeah. Just, but one other question about this, like the Cumberland Hotel came up.
Yeah.
Obviously historically significant here in the village, but also probably unsavable at this point.
I mean, they
Uh,
saved the King George.
They did, and
Through some
nothing,
set of miracles.
nothing's impossible. But how much are we burdening owners with being having difficulty in redeveloping their properties if they end up on these lists? Like, I mean, I understand nobody wants to see the Cumberland Hotel disappear.
Yeah.
But the financial reality of it is that it probably has to at some point.
I think
And I'm sure that there are other significant buildings in town that probably fall into the same category. Like, they would be lovely to renovate, but it just may not be feasible. And are we impeding owners from realizing what they need to do with their properties by putting them on these lists?
Yeah, no. I mean, the Heritage Register listing doesn't imply protection. Like, it doesn't prevent the owner from demolishing the building, or redeveloping it, or tearing off half and doing an addition other than or building. Code will, have something to say to that. So, I think what we found is that they have been really valuable in our discussions with people when they are thinking about what to do with the property. So the King George Hotel has a statement of significance, and the statement of significance had historic photographs included. Aside from the text and the summaries, there's also a lot of historic photos that might have given inspiration to the architect when they designed the renovations of the building. So with the Cumberland Hotel, it could also be a first step, even though that may get torn down because it's beyond repair, or not financially feasible to renovate. The statement of significance may inform how the old building might be commemorated or recognized in the new. So you have character-defining elements that could influence how people might treat the entrance, for example. And I mean, the design that we had, the heritage alteration permit has expired, had sort of that cut corner for the entrance, so they were trying to have some allude to the old building in some way, and one of the heritage alteration permit requirements was to do a commemoration plan, commemorate the old building. So if we had a completed heritage, like statements of significance, or even character-defining elements, like some minimal, that might help with inspiring that or guiding that discussion.
Our discussion as sitting member on the Heritage Committee, there generally it's there's no stick. It's just a carrot for people to say, oh, I've come into possession of this really special old building or old place, and it tends to, there's a market for people that actually want to have something of that pedigree rather than just maybe a brand new build. People tend to look for this sort of thing, especially if they get an old building. There's a lot of wonderment behind it. So I think that's the ultimate aim when we do that.
Thanks, Councillor. I think Courtney wanted to respond.
Just to add a couple of things, I think that there's a small burden, which is that council could withhold a demolition permit for up to 60 days. 60 days is a long time or a short time, sort of, I guess, depending on who you ask. As Karen pointed out, the village would have limited alternatives to offer. We don't have a big bank account to offer grants for heritage revitalization, but something the city of Nanaimo did many years ago is a house was to be demolished, a heritage house which is on their register, and council did withhold the demolition permit for up to 60 days. But what happened in that time period is that the heritage planner advertised things, put a news release out, like, does anyone want to have this and move it off the property? I don't think they were successful in the end, but I'm not sure. But so that's an example of what could be done within that 60 days, which could be valuable opportunity.
Yeah.
And then the technical benefit, sort of aside from these other benefits that have been mentioned, is the access to the BC Building Code Heritage Building Supplement, which is, I think, a real advantage to be able to do renovations and not have to meet existing code. So life safety measures could be met in other ways, but you're not having to go and change everything. That can be a huge advantage to people renovating old buildings.
Yeah. And I think in the future, council could consider putting money aside or having some reserve or something to help provide incentives to preserve buildings, or I don't know. Like there's
MRDT funds?
opportunities to do that. Yeah. Or like, I don't know. I'm sure there's creative ways that people, and also that 60 days gives the community time to go, oh, we don't want to lose this, and they might rally and do something, you know. So there is a value in that, even though it's no stick, like you say. Any other questions?
Oh,
or-
thank you. That helps a lot.
Thanks very much.
So there's a recommendation there.
All right, I'll move that council receive the Cumberland Community Heritage Register Editions report for information.
Second. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
I'll wait for it.
Yeah, second.
Second. Yep.
Yes. And all in favor? And go ahead, Courtney.
Now, we can take all your comments back to the Heritage Committee, but it could be helpful when we work with the Heritage Committee to have some formal direction from council about your interest. I think what I heard is in prioritizing buildings for the project because of the benefits to their protection.
I would, can I see
Yes.
nods or,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I think so. And also the imminent risk of deterioration or other things that could happen to a
And then
building.
The other items I had is ensuring that buildings that have a plaque are on the list. They may or may not be. Some of them may not be.
Yeah.
And then the Twisted Chimney House,
It has a plaque, so it falls under
which
that
also
category.
Yeah.
falls under that. Yes. Okay. And the Cumberland Hotel.
Yeah. And I'm not sure, do we want to have a conversation about whether people should be, I'm not sure I'm not sure you can put a heritage
No,
thing
no,
on
you can't.
Okay, we did. Okay, good. I'm glad the committee came to that themselves. I was like, what? Okay.
Yeah, so
Anything
when it
else?
says at the end of the inventory, the preliminary list, Joan Nyler, that
Yeah.
the site would be the cemetery headstone.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah.
Yeah. Not the actual person. Okay. Anything else on that list or any other additions?
Is that a council motion
Okay. Who's
for
going
that
to remember
direction?
that? Who wants to say it?
I could
Yep.
read it back my notes.
Sure. That would be
Um,
great. Thank you.
The council for the Heritage Register,
Yeah.
for the Heritage Register, prioritize buildings due to the benefits and protections due to imminent risk of deterioration. Adding buildings with heritage plaques to the register. And add the Cumberland Hotel to the register.
To the list to review.
To the
Yeah,
list to
right.
review.
Yeah.
Yes?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Seconder? Thank you. All in favor? Nicely done. Thank you. Okay. Next up is Regional Growth Strategy Minor Amendment.
IGS amendment. You know, staying here.
That's you again, Karen. Don't try and go anywhere.
Yeah. So this next report is to introduce the Regional Growth Strategy Minor Amendment. There the council received a referral from the regional district on amendments to the Regional Growth Strategy. The Regional Growth Strategy itself dates back to March 2011. It was adopted, and with the acceptance of the local municipalities. And the minor amendment process allows the regional district to update context, data, administrative type things as a minor amendment, which actually doesn't require municipality acceptance. Regardless, it's a referral for comment, and there will be a public hearing on February the 17th. So we're trying to give them our comments, or your comments if you have comments prior to the public hearing. When staff reviewed the proposed changes, they seem to really fit well under the purpose of a minor amendment, which was just administrative contextual updates. There wasn't really anything that staff felt changes the vision, goals, or the policy directions of the regional growth strategy. So our recommendation is to just accept or just say our interests aren't affected. Basically, Village of Cumberland supports the minor amendments.
Okay, great. Yeah, I just wanted to say, even though this document is aged, from 2011, I think you said, it's done a very good job in containing suburban sprawl. and ensuring that the green spaces and wild spaces and wildlife corridors and all those things that we all sort of moved here for because of the nature of this place, I think is served really well by this document. And the inclusion of the agricultural plan and the food security piece is also, I think, really important, because that's literally where our food comes from, is those regional district areas. And with that, I'll look to council for questions or comments, feedback. Anybody?
I got no questions, but a couple comments. It was sobering to see that the house, single-family house, has gone up 64% in the last 10 years. That was a crazy stat. I was also happy to see the policy 4C, promote and support the improvement of the Island Rail corridor infrastructure to protect the corridor and potential stations, which we don't talk about here very much, which I would like to at some point someday. So. That's it.
Ongoing challenge, yep.
Yep. Thank you.
So I have a bit of feedback that I would like to offer. So there's a section on economic development in which there are 2 mentions of industrial lands. And in other places in the RGS, it does speak to supporting this or supporting that. And when it comes to industrial lands, I think the language is encourage the supply of industrial lands. And what I would rather see is, it says monitor the supply of industrial lands. I would like to see support or encourage development of industrial lands based on their potential for business attraction, retention, and expansion. Yeah. If anybody else is comfortable with that. I don't know, do we need a motion? Do you want a formal motion on that? Yeah?
Yep, maybe I've,
Do you have something as well?
yep, I had one other thing. But I'm just trying to find it now because I forgot to write down what page it was on. There's mention, they added active transport as part of, what they want to encourage. But I would also like to see a car share co-op, language around a car share co-op added to that as well, as just ways to meet our climate goals and encourage people to alternate forms of transport. They mention increasing bus ridership and active transport, but I think a car share network and looking to expand that into the region would be also a part of that strategy.
For sure. Do you want to try and make those 2 things into a motion, if you agree with the industrial lands thing?
Me?
Yeah. Since you're talking.
Sure.
Or do you want,
Rachel, do you
a
have
motion?
something?
Do you want a motion for each? Because I could have a stab at the industrial lands one while Councillor Turin works on his.
Is this in addition to the staff recommendation? So it would just be to submit a referral response in support of bylaw with those 2,
Yeah,
2, 3.
I think
Does
so.
that work?
2.
Motion?
So those may not fit under a minor amendment, but there, I think we could leave that up to the regional district to determine, and also there's an upcoming review of the regional growth strategy, and that can also then feed into that. So
Okay.
Okay. Do you want to try, or do you want?
We're directing staff to write a referral letter, and can we just say move that council direct staff to write a referral letter to the CVRD, including the feedback received this evening? Can we word it as easily as that and leave it to you guys to write the actual letter?
I think we should be specific on what council's looking for. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Councillor Ward, do you want to do the?
Well, I can propose an amendment to the motion. Do we need the motion on the floor before we amend it?
I think you could just propose
You just make the motion with
It
the
has,
amendment.
it's
yeah.
not,
Okay. Yep.
So we haven't
I'll
moved
withdraw
anything
that and allow you to go ahead. Yep.
Okay, so my bit would be the that council direct staff to submit a referral response to the Comox Valley Regional District in support of bylaw 810, being the Comox Valley Regional District Regional Growth Strategy Bylaw number 120, amendment number 2, and include that section 3B-5 references encouraging the supply of industrial land. Is that sufficient?
Yep.
Right. And that section,
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out which section it was in. As I said, I forgot to write down the page.
section referencing active transport, encourages the creation of a carpool,
Yeah.
car sharing network or facility.
Okay.
That's fine.
Second?
Second.
And all in favor? Thank you for that. Thanks, Karen. Wasn't quite as, we didn't just let it go that easily, did we? Nope. Okay, positive ticket program is up next. Hello, Ryan.
Good evening, everybody.
That's the next agenda.
So here tonight, seeking council approval to participate in a joint regional initiative with the Comox Valley RCMP and other local governments on a positive ticketing program. And the gist of the program is essentially we create vouchers that would be redeemable for recreation services. The estimation is that approximately 300 might be created in a year. We give those vouchers to the RCMP. They can then use those to hand out to youths in the Comox Valley who they see doing positive deeds, basically to reward good behavior. And then the youth can then in turn redeem those vouchers at any of the participating jurisdictions or recreation facilities. So right now we've got City of Courtenay, Town of Comox, and the CVRD have all approved this. We're the latecomers to the party. In Cumberland, those vouchers would be redeemable for any of the drop-in services that would be covered by a regular membership: fitness studio, squash courts, climb and wall, any of the drop-in programs that don't incur an additional fee. Given the small size of Cumberland relative to some of the other participants, of those 300 vouchers, we're anticipating that maybe about 25 of those, less than 25, would be redeemed here. Anticipated total cost or value of about $51 or so. So we don't see this as being a significant monetary initiative. The Comox Valley RCMP has handed out about 250 vouchers last year in a partnership with the City of Courtenay. And what we've heard from them is that they really love the opportunity, not only to reward good behavior, but also just an excuse to interact with youth in a different way, in a positive way, and sort of foster those good relationships, particularly with youth that may be more vulnerable. So those are all good things. Yeah, like I said, the other jurisdictions have approved this already. If Cumberland does as well, then the next step would be we as a staff would work with our regional counterparts to design the tickets and implement a means of redeeming them and tracking them on the front line. Like a lot of our regional initiatives, we expect that a lot of the heavy lifting in that regard would be borne by the other jurisdictions. So operationally as well as financially, we don't expect this to be a huge hit. I guess I'll leave it at that, and if there's any questions, I'm happy to respond.
Council, go ahead, Councilor Breaking.
Before I start, 2 minutes for looking so good. Remember that old ad? Anyway, just a big question is, how is this promoted so that kids in the playground see a police officer approaching, it doesn't scare the bejesus out of them, and they have a positive, initial thing. I'm like, what's this for?
Yeah.
Is that through the RCMP solely, or is that through the village as well here?
So what we talked about doing was there'd be some kind of a joint release that would go out. So media release in the local papers. I'm sure we would have a news post as with the other jurisdictions on our own websites. I can't speak to how the RCMP themselves would be promoting it, but they may have some other ideas for how they get that message out.
Excellent. I think it's a fantastic idea.
Just a suggestion then, advertise it at the schools. That's where the kids are.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is great. A low cost, positive interaction with the local RCMP. I don't see anything bad can come out of this.
Yeah, I think it fits our support for community policing quite well.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else have questions or comments? Okay, there's a recommendation there.
All right, I move that council approve the Village of Cumberland's participation in the Positive Ticket Program with the Comox Valley RCMP and other regional governments, including the provision of free drop-in recreation admissions to youth 18 and under.
Seconder?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
And now we're on to the amendment to the Remembrance Day flyby policy. Who knew we had a flyby policy?
I guess I'll review that with you.
I did.
The flyby policy came about because council approves, or the mayor would write a letter every year to approve the flyby for Remembrance Day, and we just thought it was a little more efficient if the request came in that staff could just automatically write that letter without having to bring it to council. So that policy was approved couple years ago now, and we've received a request from the Event Society that would also like a flyby for the Victoria Day Parade. So we're, if council approves that request, staff is recommending that we just amend the policy to include it. So those years that the Event Society does submit a request, staff can just send that approval into Canadian Forces Special Events.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments?
Why not?
So I just have since we're council is giving the authority to staff to say yea or nay when these come forward, I wonder if we want to do a bit of a trial for the addition of, as I understand, this flyby is going to go over the parade or some such thing. Do we know the timing of that? Or we don't know?
I think that would come to the request, and it would go. I think the request goes directly to the Canadian Forces Special Events in Winnipeg, and then the village would write a letter supporting that request for the parade day. And I'm not quite sure the timing of it. I don't.
And that also could change from year to year. I guess my concern is, I think it's a great idea, and I think, anyway, I'm not going to say anything about what I think it might look like, because that might be a surprise and very exciting, but it also might terrify people. And so if the community, or like the horses in the parade, like if it's at the same time as this parade and the horses stampede, or there's some unknown consequence, I guess the Event Society would manage that. Like I'm thinking about all the thousands of people that are in Cumberland on that day, and I'm like, what if everybody freaks out?
It does say 10 a.m. to start the parade.
Yeah.
So I could mention the horse issue.
Yeah, and let's just try it this year, and if it works, then we
And
delegate
the
it to
horses would
staff
be
in the
not
future.
On the public street, at 10 o'clock, they would still probably be.
They would still be in the back.
parking
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. Okay. So I think what's the recommendation?
Okay. Well, I'll move that council rescind Remembrance Day flyby policy 1.11 and approve the Canadian Forces flyby policy 1.11.
And can I amend that to have it come back after a trial period of 1 year to make sure the community doesn't freak out?
I'll second that as amended.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor? Thank you. We'll just see how it goes. I think it'll be great.
Yep.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, let's just see how it rolls there.
A bit like. Okay, so next up is equity support benefits for council members. And I think this is Rachel as well. Yes.
Back in October, council asked staff to draft a terms of reference for equity supports for council members that would support council through that remuneration review that council wanted, rather than a financial remuneration review, to look at those equity supports. And staff has provided a draft terms of reference here in the report that includes a full facilitated session with the Accessibility and Inclusion Committee to explore and identify equity-seeking groups and explore and identify types of supports and benefits to reduce barriers for people interested in running for council. And after preparing this report, I think we really realized that staff might not have the full capacity to run a full facilitated session with the committee on such short notice with the election coming up in October. So one of the alternatives that presented here is to look at allocating $5,000 from General Financial Stabilization Reserve for some technological supports for anyone elected that might need those supports due to a disability, language or literacy challenges, and also to look at a policy on childcare expenses and bring that back to the council at the next budget. That's the one thing that UBCM paper on remuneration talked about, is those childcare expenses, particularly for single parents to attend meetings. And as part of that alternative option for council, those two equity supports could be referred to the Accessibility and Inclusion Committee fairly quickly without the full process, facilitated process on equity supports. And perhaps in coming years we could do a more fulsome review, but this is a fairly easy interim step to get there.
Okay, so do you want the allocation of funding for a future time right now as well, or do you want us to just refer the...
Maybe refer the alternative one to the Accessibility and Inclusion Committee for consideration and recommendation to council.
Okay. I just wanted to say, while we're talking about this, because we are not having a conversation about so it is typical practice for councils to review remuneration for the coming council, so not for your own benefit obviously, but for the benefit of the future council. And we have had a previous conversation where we decided that I think right now we are doing CPI increases automatically every year, and we were happy to stay there. I just wanted to add that conversation because we're not having a public conversation about increasing our remuneration, which would normally be what we do. And I think it's indicative of our intent to not increase taxes at this particular time in the world. So I just wanted to say that, and I'm pretty sure we're doing CPI increases every year. Yes. Okay, good. I had that right. Okay, so there's a alternative recommendation there, and it's number 1, I think. Yes.
Can I just ask
Or 2.
a couple of questions?
Or 1. Yes.
Question?
Absolutely. Sorry.
Thank you for this. It's helpful to see from other municipalities as well. And if we're talking about, for example, childcare expenses, and I would quite like that to be child and family care, just to recognise that members of council may be needing to support elders as well as children, or disabled adults in their family as well. So it's child and family as opposed to just a child. Would such expenses would that require a change in bylaw or a change in policy to cover such expenses?
Good question. Definitely a change for the budget, and a council. I was thinking a council policy to administer that, but it could actually be a policy through the bylaw. We could look at that.
Okay, just
So it would go
thinking
into
of
their
that.
remuneration bylaw.
Yeah.
Yes, thinking of the mechanics and the difficulty, but that's okay. I was just curious if it can be done by policy, even better. Okay, then I'm definitely in favour of that first alternative. If anyone else has any questions? Oh, you want me to make a motion?
Yep.
I'll move that Council direct staff to bring forward an amendment to the 2026-2030 financial plan to allocate $5,000 from the General Financial Stabilization Reserve for elected officials who require technological supports and and to direct staff to propose budget funds in the upcoming 2027 to 2031 financial plan for child or family care expenses directly related to attending a meeting, and to draft policy for consideration in 2027.
And to refer to the
And
accessibility and inclusion.
to refer to the Accessibility and Inclusion Committee for feedback.
Okay, seconder?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Can I
Opposed?
give my opposed for this? I'm
Yep.
very much in favor of moving this towards the Inclusion and Accessibility Committee and having this for, you know, to support technology for people who need additional supports. I don't support the child care one myself, so. Even though I would benefit, but I just, yeah.
That's okay. You're
Anyway,
allowed to oppose.
That's why I'm opposed. Thank you.
Okay, next up is amendment to open meeting, whoops, sorry.
Did we have a vote on that?
We did have a vote. We had all in favor except Councillor Barecki opposed. Yeah. Amendment to open meeting video recording policy. Councillor Tyrion, this is your item.
Yes. Hi, thank you. Yeah, I think the report is fairly self-explanatory. I just would like to see our committee of the whole meetings also recorded and saved. Again, this is an accessibility thing. A lot of people are at work while we're in the committee of the whole. We're currently live streaming them, but not saving them. And a lot of our substantive discussions occur in those committee of the whole meetings. So I think it's in the interest of transparency and accountability, people should be able to see what we are discussing in those, especially budget meetings, I think. As we go forward, more and more people want to know, how did we arrive at these decisions? We spent a long time at our budget deliberations this time. There was a lot of substantive discussion, and people should be able to see these things.
Anybody else have comments or questions on this?
Well, I had a couple of small points. One, and I think we have thought about this. What happens in a committee of the whole that is the items are entirely closed, but the meeting needs to be, you know, we open with an agenda approval and then we move to closed and then we rise and report. Can we firstly, it seems obvious to exclude those from recording. We wouldn't want to have to set up all the equipment and have someone here to do the this is the meeting, now we're closed. Do you have a comment?
I think in council's regular meeting room, it wouldn't be too burdensome because the audio video setup is already there. But in this temporary space, it does take at least an hour for staff to set up the equipment, if not longer, to pull the room together every day and put it away again afterwards. So I would say until we're back in the regular council chamber, it would be lovely not to have to do that just in those circumstances where the meeting has no public agenda other than the closing of the meeting.
Yeah, as it was this afternoon.
Yes.
Yeah, so do we need
that's
to
fine.
put that in the motion to exclude those?
If that's council's wish, if excluding meetings, how would you write this?
Because those agendas and all that information is on the website.
Yes.
Like, there's no point in having a recording that says we're moving into closed and closing the record. Like, that seems
Excluding meetings where the agenda is composed of closed items, entirely of closed items.
entirely of closed items. Yeah.
And then my other question is, I think occasionally we have different sort of committee of the whole meetings where we may be workshopping or even out and about. I'm thinking of something that might be coming up. Is that going to be committee of the
Yes.
whole? How do we account for, you know,
Not being inside.
there may be times when it's impractical, or there may be, I'm not sure.
Yeah, staff has looked into that, and if it's a information session where council is just having a learning opportunity or listening, or receiving a presentation, perhaps, and that can happen inside a room or outside exploring the village, then it wouldn't be considered a meeting where you're actually progressing business of the village. You're just sitting as in a learning opportunity, say. But if there's a meeting where the mayor is chairing the meeting in a formal way, where you're discussing village business and you're actually sort of informally or formally making decisions furthering the business of the village, it would have to be considered it is a committee of the whole or a council meeting,
Okay.
and then would be live streamed.
Okay, so those exceptions just wouldn't be committee of the whole, they would just be different sorts of meetings, information meetings or learning, training opportunities, okay.
Yeah, I think the key to that is you're learning and you can ask questions, but you're not giving feedback, you're not
Right.
advancing business, and we wouldn't open it. The mayor wouldn't open the meeting. So,
Right.
like for instance, like a workshop to look at the transportation master plan, we would be starting that probably without opening the meeting at
Yeah.
the learning side of it. You'd go and maybe go out, look at the shared streets and look at all of that. When you come back and you're going through the transportation master plan and you're looking at it all,
And-
you're opening the meeting at that point, and it's an open meeting. Like
Okay,
that
great.
helps.
Okay, great. And just to reiterate that committee of the wholes, we don't actually make decisions, but we do have a lot of discussion. And then it's often the case that when that item comes back to council in a regular meeting, we don't reiterate all that discussion because we all heard each other when we talked to committee of the whole. And so it is important for the community to be able to see that discussion because it doesn't always happen again because we would just be repeating ourselves all the time. Then there's a recommendation there, and we'll need to, no, we don't. We don't need to include, we need to include the exclusion of meetings that are entirely closed.
Okay.
So
I'll
add that on to the end, yeah.
Okay. I'll move that council amend the open meeting video recording policy in section 2 to read, open council meetings and open committee of the whole meetings will be recorded and live streamed through a link on cumberland.ca, the Village of Cumberland website, excluding meetings that are entirely closed agenda.
Okay,
Second. Thank
And
you.
to delete section 2.1.
second again.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Thanks for bringing that forward,
Thank you,
Councillor.
guys.
Thank you.
Okay, we talked about that a lot, and somebody needed to do something, so I appreciate that. I think we are now on councilmember monthly reports. Any questions on those? Gonna zip through.
Straightforward. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no questions, there's a recommendation to receive those reports.
I'll move receipt of monthly reports.
Second.
All in favor, thank you. That's carried unanimously. And then next up is our resolution update on our AVICC resolution. Do you want me to speak to that? Do you want to speak to that?
Go ahead.
So it has come to our attention that the CVRD is putting a resolution forward to AVICC around active travel in rural areas, which would include inter-community and between community travel, and is very similar to the resolution that we were going to submit. And I think it might be more powerful if we do one resolution, given the number of resolutions that we see at AVICC, not to duplicate. And so tomorrow, the AVICC resolution will come to the CVRD board, where I can insert a bit of language around active travel between communities, because it doesn't specifically state that right now. And the initiator of that resolution is happy to make those amendments. So we need to withdraw ours. Or we need to make a council decision to withdraw the former resolution and support the CVRD resolution.
And Just a question, would it be issued as a joint submission, or would it be?
It might, but that might be a bit complicated, and then we might not be able to pull that off tomorrow. So if we can, I will try to do that. But if I can't, because it needs to come back to this council before it goes to AVICC, which I suspect is the case,
Right.
then we won't do that.
Understood.
It'll just be the CVRD, and we'll just get up and speak to it if we need to.
And I assume any motion we make today should be contingent on the success of tomorrow's motion at the CVRD. Should the motion be defeated, we would want to.
Yes, I can't imagine that would
hold
happen,
out.
but let's just secure that, shall
Oh,
we?
it's just
Because you
be-
never know what's going to happen over there.
Yeah, it's worded that way. It's worded with an if.
Yeah.
In the
If, yeah.
in this
Okay.
recommendation here.
So we still have ours in our back pocket.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And
Okay, good.
yeah, happy to see this just go forward as one motion. I'm not really hung up on who gets credit for it. I just want to see it happen.
Okay.
I'll move that council withdraw the Village of Cumberland AVICC resolution, provincial funding and development of intercommunity active transportation corridors, if the Comox Valley Regional District submits a resolution to advocate for active transportation.
Thank you.
Second.
Seconder. Thank you. All in favor? That is carried unanimously. And now we are on to the big kahuna, the zoning bylaw, 1238, 2025. Nobody's even gonna, we've seen it so many times.
Move.
We love it so much. Okay, go ahead.
I move the council adopt the zoning bylaw 1238, 2025.
Seconder?
Second.
All in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you so much for all that work. And for everyone who participated in the process of amending that, not just our fantastic staff, but all the community members that came out to give their input. I just have to find the end of it so I can get on to the next report, which is Water Supply Capital Upgrades Parcel Tax Bylaw Amendment. Hello, Annie.
Hello, good evening, Mayor and Council. So this report is to present Council with an amendment to the parcel tax amount included in the Water Supply Capital Improvement Parcel Tax Bylaw, and for Council to appoint the 2026 Parcel Tax Roll Review Panel and schedule the panel meeting. Council adopted the Water Supply Capital Improvement Parcel Tax Bylaw number 1147 in 2021 to set the parcel tax to repay the debt for the water supply capital improvement. The parcel tax was established at the time at $45.09, and it was calculated based on an exceptionally low rate of 0.91%, guaranteed for the first 5 years of the term. And now the remaining debt will be refinanced in 2026 at a rate of 3.03%, and an amendment is required to the bylaw to adjust the parcel tax amount. So the proposed revised parcel tax amount of is $50.87, and it is based on the revenue required to cover the annual debt payment of $94,000 and $94,560, and this is divided by the number of taxable parcel in January 2026, which is 1,859 parcels. So just a little more, actually I don't have the number here, about 150 more parcel than in 2021.
But did you say 500?
150.
Oh, 100. I was like, whoa.
It's quite a bit, actually.
Thank you.
And it also includes actually the parcels that were previously exempt from taxation, but the taxation exemption applies only to municipal taxes. So those, I'm not sure how many, I think about 40 to 50 parcels were village owned, and those have been added to the calculation as well. And now in terms of the process, so the community charter establishes a specific process that must be followed every year when a parcel tax is established for the first time, or each year thereafter for individual rolls that are added for the first time to an existing parcel tax roll. and so the municipality must make available to the public on request a report respecting all the rates were determined and the time and place of the parcel tax review panel to hear the complaints, review, and correct, if needed, the parcel tax roll must be set by council resolution. So here at the village, we levy parcel taxes based on frontage measurements called the frontage tax to all property that have access to the utility services, and the details of the bylaws and the calculation for the water, sewer, and storm frontage rates are included in the report. And council already approved the new rates for 2026 back in December. And we also have the water supply capital improvement parcel tax that we are amending hopefully tonight with the revised rate of $50.87. And now for the parcel tax review panel, again, the community charter requires that the frontage and parcel tax bylaw must be adopted and that each parcel tax roll be reviewed by the tax roll review panel prior to May of each year when the tax levy notice are mailed. And staff recommends that council appoints tonight all members of council to the parcel tax review panel, and that council establish the sitting of the review panel at 2:30 on March 23rd prior to the scheduled committee of the whole meeting. And again, pursuant to the community charter, notices of the meeting must be mailed to the owners of every new tax parcel that will be subject to the parcel tax at least 14 days before the review panel meeting. And staff will also publish notice of the parcel tax review panel meeting in the newspaper and on the websites. Owners of the parcel owners of the parcel affected by the established parcel tax may make complaints to the parcel tax review panel on the different grounds established by the community charter and listed in the report. And if no complaints are received, the parcel tax roll is deemed to have been authenticated and the meeting can be cancelled. So now staff recommend that council give 3 reading to the water supply upgrade parcel tax amendment bylaw number 1253, and that council appoint all members of council to the parcel tax roll review panel and establish the sitting of the review panel on March 23rd.
Thank you. Okay, there's any questions on the parcel tax?
Straightforward.
I'm guessing we don't know what's on the committee of the whole agenda and therefore the length of that. I was just looking at we have in our diaries a 3 o'clock, and for those of us who need to skip work to attend that, then being here half an hour early is just a little extra. I didn't know whether we could make the panel at 3 and the committee of the whole at 3:30, but we don't.
That's a good question. Do we remember?
The agenda's uncertain at this
Yeah.
point.
Exactly, that was my fear.
Yes.
The agenda's uncertain, and it's probably a bit too much of an ask.
Yeah.
I can make it work, but I just wanted
Yeah.
to be aware of those who
And
have work commitments.
Yes, and it's also we only need quorum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't need 5 council members necessarily. We just
Yeah.
need quorum.
Yeah.
And we were looking at the wastewater treatment plant opening at 12:30 that day as
That
well.
day, so that's a full day.
Ah,
Yeah.
Yep.
that is. Okay.
That's what vacation's for.
Okay.
Thank you for
Actually,
your service.
Mondays are council days. Yep.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll move that council give first, second, and third reading to the water supply capital upgrades parcel tax amendment bylaw number 1253/2026, and that council appoint Mayor Brown, councillors Barecki, Sullivan, Tarian, and Ward as members of the 2026 parcel tax review panel, and that council establish the sitting of the parcel tax roll review panel at 2:30 p.m. March 23rd, 2026 at the Cultural Center located at 2674 Dunsmuir Avenue, and direct staff to publish notice of the sitting of the panel.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. That's carried unanimously. And on to the 2026-2030 financial plan amendment bylaw.
So now this report is to present amendment to the 2026-2030 financial plan bylaw. The proposed amendment include the project carried forward to 2026, council resolution for financial impact to the year 2026, and staff recommended amendments. This report also bring forward a correction to the additional budget required for the 2025 roads and utilities capital works presented at the last council meeting on January 2026. So the first attachment to the report summarizes the details of the changes to the budget by type of amendments. Then the second attachment includes the list of projects carried forward to 2026. Attachment 3 is the list of budget amendment approved by council through resolution. And attachment 4 is a list of budget amendment recommended by staff. And those are the approved increase of wages, salaries, and benefit for 2026, as well as 2 adjustments for the 2025 roads and utilities capital works. So the first change here is to change the funding from for the 2 storm sewer separation section from linear asset renewal reserve to DCC storm. And the second change is to confirm the additional budget required for the 2025 roads and utilities capital works that was approved at the last meeting. So the original budget approved by council was $853,340 and not $1,387,000 as incorrectly included in the January 26 report. The total estimated budget to complete the project remained unchanged at $2,088,700 as requested at the January 26 meeting. And I also want to confirm that staff continue to be comfortable with the funding available to fund the project. And we estimate that about half of the increase is due to scope change, and the other half is due to general cost increase. And finally, I included in the report the same table that was included in the previous report, and this table has been updated with the correct original budget and also includes the proposed use of DCC revenue. And finally, the estimated reserve balance at December 2030 are included in the report for information, and staff will bring another report to council for the budget amendment for the remainder of 2026 later in the year. And tonight, staff recommend that council give 3 readings of the 2026-2030 financial plan amendment bylaw 1255. Any question?
Just gratitude for finding that DCC funding for that project. That's great. Keeping our reserves, as high as we can keep them. Questions, council? There's a recommendation there then.
I'll give first, second, and third reading to the 2026-2030 financial plan amendment bylaw number 1255-2066.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Okay. Yes, go cough. So next up is notices, motions, and announcements. Please do check the website before attending any of these meetings in case they are canceled. So we have a Heritage Committee meeting on February 19th from 4 till 6 at the Fire Hall meeting room. That's fun. And Homelessness and Affordable Housing Committee on February 19th as well, from 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m., also at the Fire Hall meeting room. Again, check the website to clarify before you come down. Next up is question period, and seeing no one in the audience, just checking online.
Yes, we have one question by email, I believe regarding the Heritage Inventory and Register. How could the Cumberland Hotel be on the heritage list when the zoning and a redesign of a building was approved by last council?
I think the heritage list is about recognizing existing heritage buildings, regardless of their development status, and that one is currently not active, as far as I know. Is it active still? Anyway, not active. It's about recognizing those buildings, not so much, like we said in our conversation, there's not much teeth there to save them, but it's important to recognize them.
Could also recognize the site as well. if
Yeah.
That was important, regardless of what's there existing.
Is there another one?
There's another one, but I don't think it relates to a item on the agenda. So I think I'll hold that one and answer it directly.
Okay. Okay, great. So having no more questions, we have a motion to move to closed, if somebody could do that. Oh, I have it here. Do you want me to read it? That council close the meeting to the public pursuant to Section 90 of the Community Charter to consider litigation or potential litigation affecting the municipality, or to the receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose.
Second.
You gotta move it.
Or so moved.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor? Everyone's in favor?
Yeah.
And several of us